Why is it so hard to forgive someone even when you know holding on to pain is hurting you? The truth is, forgiveness isn't just about the other person, it's deeply connected to your emotions, identity, trust, and unresolved wounds. In this video, we'll explore the real psychology behind resentment, why some pain refuses to fade, and what truly stops people from letting go and moving on. Today we will talk about the real reason you can't forgive and move on. So, before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Why forgiveness feels so difficult. Forgiveness is often described as something simple. Just let it go and move on. But psychologically, forgiveness is far more complicated than most people realize. When someone deeply hurts, betrays, rejects, humiliates, or disappoints us, the emotional pain does not disappear simply because we want it to. Human emotions are strongly connected to memory, identity, trust, and survival instincts. The brain treats emotional pain seriously because painful experiences teach us what to avoid in the future. This is why betrayal, rejection, or emotional wounds can stay alive in the mind for years. Many people struggle to forgive because part of them feels that letting go means minimizing what happened. Others fear forgiveness will make them vulnerable to being hurt again. Psychology shows that resentment often develops as a form of emotional self-protection. Anger and emotional distance can create a temporary sense of control after feeling powerless or deeply wounded. 2. The brain's emotional attachment to pain. One major reason people cannot move on is because the brain becomes emotionally attached to painful experiences. Whenever emotional wounds are replayed repeatedly in the mind, the brain strengthens those emotional memories through neural pathways. This process is known as emotional reinforcement. Every time a person revisits betrayal, humiliation, or anger mentally, the emotional reaction becomes easier to trigger again. The brain starts treating the pain like an unresolved threat that still requires protection and attention. Psychology explains that humans naturally replay painful experiences because the mind searches for understanding, closure, or emotional justice. Unfortunately, constant rumination often deepens suffering instead of resolving it. The emotional pain may even become part of a person's identity over time. They stop seeing the hurt as something that happened to them and begin seeing it as part of who they are. 3. Forgiveness is often confused with weakness. Another reason many people struggle to forgive is because they misunderstand what forgiveness actually means. Some people believe forgiveness means excusing harmful behavior, pretending nothing happened, or allowing toxic people back into their lives. Others fear that forgiving someone makes them weak, naive, or emotionally foolish. Psychology shows that this misunderstanding creates internal resistance because the brain wants to maintain self-protection and dignity. In reality, forgiveness does not require forgetting, reconciling, or trusting someone again. Forgiveness is primarily about releasing emotional control that pain and resentment have over your mind. It is an internal emotional process, not necessarily a social one. A person can forgive while still setting strong boundaries or ending a harmful relationship permanently. However, when forgiveness is confused with surrender or approval, people unconsciously hold on to anger because it feels safer and more empowering than vulnerability. 4. Unhealed emotional wounds beneath the surface. Sometimes the real reason people cannot forgive has less to do with the current situation and more to do with older emotional wounds being reopened. A betrayal, rejection, or painful experience may trigger unresolved childhood pain, abandonment fears, insecurity, or past trauma. For example, someone who experienced emotional neglect growing up may react far more intensely to rejection in adulthood because the situation activates deeper emotional memories. Psychology explains that emotional pain is often layered. The current hurt may connect to years of suppressed emotions, insecurities, or unresolved experiences beneath the surface. This is why some people feel emotionally overwhelmed by situations others might recover from more quickly. The emotional reaction becomes stronger because the mind is responding not only to the present pain but also to past wounds that were never fully healed. 5. The desire for justice and accountability. One of the strongest psychological reasons people struggle to move on is the deep desire for justice. Human beings naturally want fairness, accountability, and acknowledgement when they are hurt. When someone causes emotional damage without apologizing, changing, or facing consequences, the pain often feels unfinished. Victims may replay the situation repeatedly because the brain continues searching for emotional closure. Anger and resentment sometimes remain active because the person feels their pain was ignored, minimized, or invalidated. Psychology explains that unresolved injustice creates emotional tension because the mind wants balance restored. This is especially painful when the person who caused harm acts unaffected or continues life normally while the victim suffers emotionally. Many people secretly believe they can only move on once the other person understands the pain they caused. However, depending entirely on someone else for emotional closure often keeps people emotionally trapped. 6. Fear of being hurt again. Fear is another hidden reason forgiveness feels so difficult. Emotional pain teaches the brain to become more cautious and protective. After betrayal, manipulation, heartbreak, or emotional abuse, the mind often develops defense mechanisms designed to prevent future suffering. Some people hold on to resentment because anger creates emotional distance and protection. Letting go may feel risky because vulnerability could lead to being hurt again. Psychology explains that trust is deeply connected to emotional safety. When trust is broken, the nervous system may remain hyper-alert even long after the event has passed. Victims may struggle to relax emotionally because the brain continues scanning for future danger. In some cases, resentment becomes a psychological shield against future disappointment. 7. The emotional cost of holding on to resentment. Although resentment may feel justified, carrying emotional pain for years can become psychologically exhausting. Chronic anger, bitterness, and emotional rumination increase stress levels and negatively affect both mental and physical health. Psychology shows that unresolved resentment can contribute to anxiety, depression, sleep problems, emotional exhaustion, irritability, and difficulty trusting others. Emotionally, holding on to pain keeps people mentally connected to the situation and the person who hurt them. Instead of moving forward freely, part of their emotional energy remains trapped in the past. Some individuals become emotionally guarded or cynical because they no longer feel emotionally safe. Relationships may also suffer because unresolved pain influences communication, trust, and emotional openness. 8. What real forgiveness actually looks like. Real forgiveness is not instant, forced, or superficial. It is a gradual emotional process of releasing the need to carry pain, revenge, or emotional attachment forever. Psychology emphasizes that forgiveness is more about personal healing than about the person who caused harm. It means deciding that the experience will no longer control your peace, identity, or future. Real forgiveness often begins with acknowledging the pain honestly instead of suppressing it. Healing may involve grief, emotional processing, therapy, self-reflection, boundary setting, and learning to rebuild trust in yourself. Forgiveness also does not mean allowing repeated mistreatment. Healthy forgiveness can exist alongside strong boundaries and self-respect. Most importantly, forgiveness is not about pretending the wound never happened. It is about refusing to let the wound define your entire life forever. Moving on becomes possible when people stop waiting for perfect closure from others and begin creating emotional closure within themselves. True emotional freedom comes not from forgetting the pain, but from no longer allowing it to control your thoughts, emotions, and future. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.